much time we got? 25 minutes.
We are at war with Iran right now. Donald Trump has betrayed MAGA, betrayed America first. He has made the most disastrous decision to lead America into another war.
I can feel it coming in the air tonight as the skies over Tehran and the secrets below. Good evening, everybody, wherever you find yourself. Welcome to Real Deal Media's #1 late night show, World at War, and I am your late night host, Dean Ryan, who's out of breath, who was literally running here tonight to catch this deadline here as we have a hell of a show, if I can use that phrase. As you saw or heard, maybe in the cold openings, nobody, and I mean nobody, is really in the know. Everybody thinks they know. Everybody wants to know. Everybody was told how this whole pandemic war was going to end. 50 years of bliss, 50 years of darkness. Well, everybody's talking about it. In fact, here's a little clip just to get our little whistles wet. And let me catch my breath. My God.
As a combatant, as not a supplier of logistics, or as an actual combatant, a participant in the situation in Ukraine, what they did in Russia, and the situation of what Israel is right now doing to the mullahs, as bad as they are and as evil as they are, right? We're going to get sucked into a shooting war of which it'll be 10 years, and the casualties will dwarf anything you saw in World War II.
Days after 9/11, I went through the Pentagon and I saw Secretary Rumsfeld and Deputy Secretary Wolfowitz. I went downstairs just to say hello to some of the people on the Joint Staff who had used to work for me. And one of the generals called me and he said, "Sir, you got to come in. You got to come in and talk to me a second." I said, "Well, you're too busy." He said, No. He says, "We've made the decision. We're going to war with Iraq." This was on or about the 20th of September. So I came back to see him a few weeks later. And by that time, we were bombing in Afghanistan. I said, "Are we still going to war with Iraq?" And he said, "Oh, it's worse than that." He said, he reached over on his desk, he picked up a piece of paper. He said, I just got this down from upstairs, meaning the Secretary of Defense's office today. And he said, "This is a memo that describes how we're going to take out 7 countries in 5 years, starting with Iraq and then Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and finishing off Iran."
Will start a war with Iran because he has absolutely no ability to negotiate. He's weak and he's ineffective. So the only way he figures that he's going to get reelected, and as sure as you're sitting there, is to start a war with Iran. Now, I'm more militant and more militaristic than the president. I believe in strength. But to start a war in order to get elected, and I believe that's going to happen, would be an outrage.
Wonderful trip down memory lane. Gee, I needed that. As you saw, Bannon is changing his tune. As you saw back in 2007, you saw Wesley Clark, General Wesley Clark. And then as you saw in 2011, Donald Trump, a little different tune. Okay, let's talk about here tonight. We have a jam-packed show. I can't even contain it. And Yes, we're going to get into everything World War III, you bet. And we do have some good news. You're going to feel just a little bit better than last night if you're into the emotions of things. We have a major resolution in our Real Deal politics we're going to talk about. Thomas Massie is really becoming a unsung hero no matter which side of the political spectrum you stand on. We're going to be getting into that. Also, our feature story tonight, our feature story on just exactly what was hacked out of Israel by Iran. We're going to talk about that. And then I have 5 pillars, I want to say, 5 pillars I came up with of how this is going to end in just days from now, if not just a week from now. We're going to talk about that and something that's very near and dear to this audience too as well. Clones. That's right, we're going to talk about clones because I'm seeing things that just don't add up to me in the same regard that the Biden character did not add up to me. And I got to be honest, because that's what we're all about around here. Hell with the peer pressure. And I'm going to make the case tonight. It's going to be our feature story coming after the break, plus some Real Deal internationals. We're going to have a little, just a topsy-turvy view of how are other countries reacting to all this. Some Real Deal international, we're going to see how Starmer, the prime minister over there in UK, is reacting to this. And then finally, we're going to end on some Real Deal health and some big Medicaid changes, if we can get to it and if I can remember it, because it's jam-packed here tonight. Okay, we are broadcasting everywhere. And yes, everywhere. I mean, we are on The Real Dean Ryan over there on Facebook, as well as YouTube at Dean Ryan TV. We're on X at The Real Dean Ryan and Rumble and Brighteon. Yes, we are. But let's get into it now and get into everything World War III. World War III. Let's talk about it now. Well, here is the latest on what we know and what's happening in the Israeli-Iranian conflict, shall we? Well, now it's now being said, this is now coming out of the Times of Israel, as Israel is running low on arrow interceptors. U.S. is now burning through its system too. This is a true statement. You know, all the talk about nukes, all of the just, descriptions of what Iran has, might not have. Well, the reality is the U.S. and now Israel don't have it to conduct a war. Can you believe that? Let's talk about it now. This is happening today as now Israel is running low on defensive missile interceptors. It's coming out of the also in relation to the Wall Street Journal, who's reporting on a similar thing. Well, the shortage now is raising concerns about the ability to continue to counter long-range ballistic missiles from Iran. That's right, since Israel launched its shock operation, as it's being described just last Friday, to remove the existential threat. Hard to see sometimes when you can't breathe, but existential threat of the Iranian nuclear program and the ballistic missile capabilities. Well, now they're saying the Islamic Republic has retaliated by launching more than 370 missiles and hundreds of drones at Israel. And we're not even getting into the Russian component just yet. Well, so far, 24 people have been killed in Israel alone, and more than 500 wounded, sadly. According to the Journal report, the U.S. has known about the shortage of arrow interceptors that's being called for months now, has been working to bolster Israel's air defense accordingly. But those stocks are now limited, they're saying, experts who are familiar with the missile. Having dispatched many to Israel, they're saying, here's a quote, there is now concern about the U.S. burning through interceptors as well. We could have told you that. We have a very depleted military, in case you don't know. Well, recently in a Washington Compost article, well, it cited a person who is briefed on U.S. and Israeli intelligence who said that, according to, quote, some assessments, Israel can maintain air defense for at least 10 to 12 days. Yeah, 10 to 12 days, and we're not even talking business days at the current rate it's going. That's true. Of the Iranian attacks now, which is lessened since the start of the fighting last week. Now, before it will require U.S. It's going to rely on the United States, or Israel is trying to rely on the United States to replenish its stocks and hopefully get more involved in this war that was started by them. Now, the source also said that already by later this week, Israel will, quote, will need to select what they want to intercept. They have to be very selective now. The system is already overwhelmed. Now, we've even showed you, and you've heard of the rumors, the whispers of the Golden Dome, the Iron Dome, completely wide open in the southern Tel Aviv. We can't understand why. Well, Israel has already, they're now choosing to allow some missiles to fall. It's now being reported when it knows that they will land in open areas. Now, however, when faced with large barges, it has been unable to shoot down the missiles headed to the population centers or critical infrastructure. Now, there's no Israeli comment that's official on this subject. The IDF, the Israeli Defense Forces, told the Journal to, quote, they are prepared and ready to handle any scenario, but could not comment on munitions matters. So, this is really, we saw this coming from just a landslide. In fact, so much that it appears that Trump seems to be changing his tune a little bit. Just the tone seems to be subsiding. In fact, here's a little clip just moments ago of Trump talking about how he's undecided of what to do.
Making your decision on Iran, obviously there's been a change from when you were pursuing a diplomatic negotiation.
Yeah.
Now you seem very open to the idea of potentially taking U.S. action. Obviously you're not going to tell us that. Can you walk us through what contributed to that change, how you got to where you are in making your decision now?
Well, I think it started the first night. I mean, the first night was devastating, and it really knocked the one side off, as you know. It was a devastating evening, day. And it's pretty much proceeded that way. I have a meeting in the war room in a little while, situation room, as some people call it. So we're going to meet. We're going to see. We're in the midst of it's a terrible thing. I hate to see it. I hate to see all that death, so much death and destruction. But death primarily. That's what I hate to see.
Does that mean you haven't made a decision yet on what to do?
I have ideas as to what to do, but I haven't made a final. I like to make the final decision 1 second before it's due, because things change. I mean, especially with war, things change with war. It can go from one extreme to the other. War is very bad. There was no reason for this to be a war. There was no reason for Russia, Ukraine. A lot of wars there was no reason for. You look right up there, I don't know, see the Declaration of Independence, and I say, I wonder if the Civil War, it always seemed to me maybe that could have been solved without losing 600,000 plus people. So a lot of, it's very sad to see. It's very sad to see what's happening. But with that being said, I would say right now, Israel, from the standpoint of winning a war, is doing pretty well. Yeah, please.
Mr. President, in your meeting today.
Well, what else would he say? And my God, did he de-age overnight? Did anybody notice that? Did he de-age and we just didn't see it? Donald Trump must have found the fountain of youth in the past, 48 hours now? Well, let's now continue as we now forge into the Middle East, as the midst of the Sahara deserts and everything in between. Well, get this now. Former Iranian minister warns of a 100-day oil blockade in the critical Strait of Hormuz. Well, isn't that exciting and thrilling? I've always wanted to have a blockade there, haven't you? Well, now that's just correct. Now, Iran is now threatening to restrict oil tanker traffic through the Strait of Hormuz, risking a surge of Brent crude prices all the way down to, or I should say up to, $130 per barrel in global energy chaos. Just in time for the incredible Great Reset. It's like it was planned this way. Well, now the Strait handles, they're saying 20% of all global oil trade. And a blockade could devastate economies reliant on Middle Eastern energy exports. Now, Iranian officials, I should say, are now warning, and have told people that the history of using the strait as a geopolitical leverage, escalating tensions amid recent jamming and tanker collisions that are now going on there with the Houthis, who recalls that. Now, shipping fleets are rerouting. Insurance costs are soaring, and analysts warn of severe market disruptions if Iran acts on its threats. Now, a prolonged closure could trigger economic shockwaves, spiking inflation and crippling supply chains worldwide. That's a sad state of affairs, but this is what they call war. Continuing now. Well, now, speaking of that, now Israel's war on Iran pushes Muslims to unite. Who could have saw that coming? I mean, people get tribal during these moments. And had this not happened, get this now, 30% favorable, the leader of Iran is now favored in the polls. Only 30% of the people over there. That's bolstering up. But let me tell you a bit more about it now. As the UNIPY over there in the world of Muslim, well, it's growing. It's growing. And you'll find out what specific country afterwards. Well, Israel's war on Iran now pushes Muslims to unite, as we're saying, forcing Tehran to acquire nuclear weapons for survival. As Israel's rains of bombs on Iranian cities claiming to bring freedom, or have we heard that before? The world watches a dangerous escalation that may push Iran toward the very outcome the West claims to fear, a nuclear-armed Islamic Republic. That's right. The U.S. is now we've been hearing about the bomb for 20 years now from Iran. Nothing shocks me anymore. Well, let me tell you, continuing now a bit more. Well, the U.S.-Israeli axis, draped in humanitarian rhetoric, propaganda has turned negotiation into a facade for premeditated violence, betraying diplomacy while fueling a cycle of retaliation. Now Tehran faces a stark choice: submit to the endless aggression or secure its survival through the ultimate deterrent. Well, here's some key points to add. Israel's strike on Iran, justified as, quote, self-defense, are accelerating Tehran's pursuit of nuclear weapons as the only viable deterrent. Now, this is key, this next point here. There's something called the Samson option. It's Israel's doctrine of nuclear retaliation reveals a chilling willingness to collapse global systems if threatened. In fact, the not-so-great one, Mark Levin, well, he was floating this idea just 2 years ago. Well, the historical U.S.-backed coups, chemical warfare, and sanctions have hardened Iran's resolve, making nuclear arms a matter of national honor. Well, nuclear Iran could stabilize the Middle East by forcing Israel into cautious engagement, reducing reliance on proxy warfare. If Iran is destroyed, the Middle East may unravel, they're saying, with Israel targeting nuclear-armed Pakistan next in its expansionist vision. And that's true. Yes, the country of Pakistan is going to be next. We can see the writing on the wall for the greater Israeli project. It's no surprise here. I'm going to show you about the Supreme Leader talking, but here is now part of the unity train here. Well, Turkey now backs Iran. What a surprise there. Yes, Erdogan right there, he's now putting his hat into the arena as they announce they're going to be backing Iran today. Well, Turkish President Tayyip Erdogan announced that he supports and his country supports Iran following Israel's attack on Tehran. Here's a quote: "It's entirely natural, legitimate, and lawful for Iran to defend itself against Israel's band of thieves and also state terrorism," Erdogan said just recently in a parliamentary group over there in the capital. Well, the Turkish president also said Israel is engaging in major state terrorism and that Israel's leader, Benjamin Netanyahu, quote, long surpassed the tyrant Hitler in the crime of genocide. That's right. The Turkish president directly described Israel's genocide of Gaza as, quote, the blood of massacred civilians, murdered babies and children, and the children splattered not only on the hands and faces of those who support Israel's arrogance, but also on those who remain silent. Now, according to the president of Turkey, Erdogan, he's doing, quote, everything we can to stop what he referred to as inhumane aggression, not only against Iran, but also Gaza, Syria, Lebanon, and Yemen. He also revealed that Turkey is closely monitoring Israel's terrorist attacks on Iran, and something will be done. China and Pakistan have also already declared their support for Iran. And Washington reportedly notified the counters that be over there in Turkey that a number of regional allies that the Jewish state was about to attack Iran prior to the Israeli onslaught. So those communications got intercepted. So if Trump says he didn't know, or if anybody says they didn't know, that's entirely not true. In fact, here is now, as we get a little closer to things, this is now Putin and the head of Iran talking about what a war in the next coming days is going to look like. And we had our RDM translator tell us the truth. Here it is.
Under the famous agreement that we just mentioned, that's it. No claims can be made against Iran. Then the United States unilaterally decided to withdraw from this agreement, and the Europeans continue to demand from Iran it fulfill its obligations. I'm sorry, but that's just nonsense. You know, Iran didn't pull out of the agreement. The U.S. did. Former President Trump made a decision to withdraw from the agreement. And the Europeans were saying, yeah, it's not good the Americans pulled out, but you Iranians must comply with everything. Why the hell should Iranians do it? Sorry, it sounds a bit rude in Russian. Basis. Now let me say, I don't think it is 8 minutes. The missile launches right here, between some of its different bases, 2 to 4 minutes. The missile launches and hits, so you have no air defense. They're fully alert. Hitting the ship is definitely possible for us. And we might say, sir, they're packing up and pulling back, assuming something lands. Yes. Well, if they pull back, then they can't pose a threat to us. If you say they'll strike with missiles, our missiles will definitely reach them too. From Diego Garcia Island, which they are after. We have plans for them as well. We're monitoring all of this. I'm announcing right here that there are several thousand people on the American ship. I'm telling America, if you make a wrong move or do something first, then you might attack the Iranian people. Bring 50,000 coffins first. Get them ready for your troops. Then if you even glance at the Iranian people, you do it at your own accord.
Scary stuff, isn't it? I mean, have we now entered the arena of the wrestling match? All of this is well over the top, is it not? Now, there's a lot of people who are dissenting from this, not just people who are in the media, all of our industries here, but also in, well, the government and the military in this case. We'll check this out here now. It's official. In addition to last night where we shared and heard that 100 national intelligence staffers were let go. Well, get this now. The U.S. officially removes Colonel Nathan McCormick from his position at the Joint Chiefs of Staffs for posts for calling Israel a death cult and saying America is acting as Israel's proxy. Well, who does he think he is? How dare he tell the truth like that? We should get rid of him. My God. Well, here's something here before we get to some real deal politics. Well, like we were saying, a lot of people are dissenting, and you might have heard something that has gone viral in the past 24 hours, and I myself saw it, and it was a whopper, and I'm talking about this one right here. Tucker Carlson in a heated exchange with Grandpa Munster over there on the left, a.k.a. Ted Cruz, and this is a showstopper, and here's just a little preview of the senator who loves AIPAC, and AIPAC loves him, having to explain the whole debacle of regime change. It just makes no sense to me. Check this out. We'll discuss after.
I don't know the population.
How many people live in Iran, by the way?
I don't know the population.
At all?
No, I don't know the population.
You don't know the population of the country you seek to topple?
How many people live in Iran?
92 million.
Okay. Yeah,
How could you not know that?
I don't sit around memorizing population tables.
Well, it's kind of relevant because you're calling for the overthrow of the government.
Why is it relevant whether it's,
because,
it's 90 million or 80 million or 100 million? Why is that
because if
relevant?
you don't know anything about the country...
I didn't say I don't know anything about
Okay, what's the ethnic mix of Iran?
They are Persians and predominantly Shia. Okay, this is huge.
It's not
okay.
even... You don't know anything about Iran. So
okay, I am not the Tucker Carlson expert on Iran.
You're a senator who's calling for the overthrow of the government.
You're the one who
don't know anything about the country.
No, you don't know anything about the country. You're the one who claims they're not trying to murder Donald Trump. You're the one who can't figure out if it was a good idea to kill General Soleimani, and you said it was bad.
You don't believe they're trying to murder Trump?
Yes, I do.
Because you're not calling for military strikes against them in retaliation. And if you really believe that...
We're carrying out military strikes today.
You said Israel was.
Right, with our help. I said we. Israel is leading them, but we're supporting them.
Well, you're breaking news here because the U.S. government last night denied, the National Security Council spokesman Alex Pfeiffer denied on behalf of Trump that we were acting on Israel's behalf in any offensive capacity.
No, we're not bombing them. Israel's bombing them.
You just said we were.
we are supporting
This is high
Israel.
stakes. You're a senator. If you're saying the United States government is at war with Iran right now, people are listening.
Can you believe it? Can you believe it? We have the great Seth Black saying Cruz loves the AIPAC money. In fact, if you watch the whole thing, Cruz literally said AIPAC is not lobbying on behalf of Israel, and they don't really have any policy leverage or power at all. They're just, donating money away and just having a good time and, just having lunch together. Well, check this out. He must have forgot. Well, we certainly didn't. Well, here it is. AIPAC, we strongly condemn the arrest warrants requested by the International Criminal Court prosecutors against Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu and Defense Minister Gallant as morally obscene. Congress should urge the administration to reimpose sanctions on the ICC, and America must insist that other countries not comply with the ICC warrants. Now, fast forward, well, get this. The U.S. House Representatives passes bill to sanction ICC officials for pursuing arrest warrants against Netanyahu and other Israeli officials. Well, Grandpa Munster was not telling us the truth, was he? And these people, the AIPAC, they don't have to register as a foreign agent, a foreign lobby. They're just, Susie Q next door. White picket fence and you name it. But with that said, let's get to some real deal politics, shall we? Real deal politics. Now, this is a real twist of event, as we're talking about. People are showing dissent, which is really the greatest form of patriotism. Well, you might have heard this, MGT and MTG. Well, look at this. She says the following. Americans want cheap gas, grocery, bills, and housing. They want affordable insurance, safe communities, and good education for their children. They want a government that works on the issues. Now, considering Americans pay the entire government in government salaries with their hard-earned tax dollars, this is where our focus should be, not going into another foreign war. I agree, Marjorie. I agree. And so does Thomas Massey. Yes, he does. Well, now Representative Thomas Massey has a war powers resolution that's now bringing UNITY across the hallways of Congress. Let me tell you a bit more about it. This is just sensational. Well, Thomas Massey over there from Kentucky, representative, announced just days ago, an evening, that he plans to introduce, quote, a bipartisan war powers resolution to prohibit American involvement in the Israeli-Iran war. Here's a quote from the representative. This is not our war, but if it were, Congress must decide such matters according to our Constitution. Yeah, if you don't know, right here in the United States, before you go to war, you have to declare war, and that's declared through the House of Congress, and people vote on it. That is who represents us. Let me continue here. Well, yes, so you have to vote on it. I invite all members of Congress to co-sponsor this resolution, Massey declared. Well, now you have representatives on the Democrat side responded to Massey's tweet by noting that he is, quote, proud to co-lead this bipartisan war powers resolution with Representative Massey, this is one of the Democrats, that is privileged and must receive a vote. This is really what's going to unite people. Here's what I'm talking. Yeah, it's a huge hit. Smash hit, they say. Well, now they're saying no war with Iran. It's time for every member to go on record. Are you with the neocons who led us into the Iraq war, or do you stand with the American people? Some of the Democrats are asking. Even Representative AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez over there in New York, and even Rashida Tlaib, both indicating that they will support the move, signing on. Here's a quote from Massey, from Tlaib. She said the following, quote, I look forward to supporting this war powers resolution. Immediately, the American people aren't falling for it again. Yeah, I mean, yes, this is Iraq 2.0 or 3.0. We've been there so many times. She further went on to say, quote, we were lied to about weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. They killed millions, plus forever changed lives. It's unconstitutional for Trump to go to war without a vote from Congress. I agree. I agree. We were misled into war all those years ago, and here we are again. Yeah, Israel puts pressure on the U.S. to strike Iraq. It's like deja vu in the most brazen way. Well, here's some of the War Powers Act resolutions. Concurrent resolution. This is something to be said. This changes the entire game, the authorization for use of military. Yes, it does. So we are going to be monitoring that as it continues now. Let's also continue now. They're saying Trump is having a very bad time with Tulsi Gabbard. You might have heard about this. That brings us now to just that. Trump is losing confidence in Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard. Would have saw that coming. She just started. Well, Trump is losing confidence indeed, they're saying. And something might be done about it. She's been asked to resign by others, but not him yet. Well, as Trump is now weighing joining the Israeli war against Iran, he's also now reportedly finding himself at odds with Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard, with one White House official saying that he has, quote, just been kind of down on her in general. Well, the president was recently incensed over there by Gabbard's decision to post a 3-minute video on X in the early hours of June 10th, in which she warned that, quote, political elite and warmongers are, quote, carelessly fomenting fear and tensions between nuclear powers, placing the world on the brink of nuclear annihilation. Trump is said to have been angered by the video, accusing Gabbard of going, quote, off message and rebuking her for it in person. One of the senior administration officials quoted anonymously that there's a growing perception, they're saying, within the West Wing that former Hawaii Democratic Congresswoman who once ran for the party's presidential nomination just years ago doesn't, quote, add anything to any conversation. They feel that Trump dislikes Tulsi as a person. Wow. But certainly the video made him not super hot on her, and he doesn't like it when people are off message. They added that, quote, many took that video as trying to correct the administration's position. And who can forget what we showed you last night, too? The United States intelligence community continues to assess that Iran is not building a nuclear weapon. Supreme Leader Khamenei has not authorized a nuclear weapons program that he suspended in 2003. Tulsi Gabbard, there it is from the 26th of March, just months ago. The war propaganda is ripe. So that has how that one goes now. Get this now. Kristi Noem, this is getting weird. Not only did we hear Tulsi Gabbard might be on her way out, we heard she's ill. Now Kristi Noem is ill for some reason, but due to a biohazard lab. And we've been hearing about biolabs in LA. We've been hearing about biolabs in Pennsylvania, all over the place. But this one is rather interesting. Poor old Kristi. Let me tell you about this. She had an allergic reaction, and this could be just code or just mantras for something else, as the Department of Homeland Security Secretary, Kristi Noem. Well, she visited a biohazard lab. For what reason, I couldn't tell you. And I doubt it was just for a day trip to have lunch. There's got to be more to this. She was rushed to the hospital with what is now being described as an allergic reaction. There's nothing to suggest any link to the lab visit. And why would you just think the biohazard lab did this? It's preposterous. Well, there's nothing to suggest that in reaction the following day. Now, Newsweek contacted DHS via email outside a normal office hours for comment. Well, here's what they said. Here's a quote from people who are definitely familiar with this matter. Well, they said, quote, Secretary Noem had an allergic reaction today. She was transported to the hospital out of an abundance of caution. She is alert, recovering, and she'll be home soon. This is from the Assistant Secretary of Public Affairs. Her name's Tricia, and that's all we need to know. I think there's more to that story. What do you think? Very weird and kooky and everything above. Continuing. Well, now Mossad's Laura Loomer is now giving orders to Pete Hegseth. Now, this is very interesting. Laura Loomer just seems to be up everybody's avenue here and just seems to be at the right place at the right time. And it does not sit well with me. But I'll say she makes a hell of a joker, doesn't she? Let me tell you about this now. As this is quite interesting, as now Hegseth refuses to say if Laura Loomer was consulted on general Hughes firing. Yes, she says Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth was accused of being either feckless or complicit for firing U.S. Cyber Command head General Timothy Haig at the urging of far-right activist Laura Loomer, a rabid supporter of Donald Trump, who has the ear of the president. How is that possible? How is that possible? And what is this far-right stuff? Haven't we moved past that? Whatever happened to alt-right? Continuing now, while they're saying Haig, an Air Force general, was removed for his dual role in charge of U.S. Cyber Command and the National Security Agency back in April, Loomer, a social media influencer, claimed credit for the dismissal because Haig wasn't considered sufficiently loyal to Trump. And so she's the little hall monitor. She goes, run to Papa, and she just tells on people. That's right. Well, Hegseth, appearing in front of the Senate Armed Services Committee, was asked by Senator Jackie Rosen over there in Nevada what, if any, part Loomer played in the decision to fire the general. Now, the defense secretary evaded an answer, saying he does not discuss who he has spoken to about such decisions, before telling the senator her time was up. This provoked a furious response by Rosen, who fired back, quote, "It is not up to you to tell me when my time is up." Oh, talk about being feckless. Quote, "You're either feckless or complicit," she said. "You're not in control of your department. I don't appreciate the smirk. Sir, you are the Secretary of Defense, not Laura Loomer." Now, there's a lot about that I agree with, and I wish Laura Loomer would just disappear from our memory. She does right place, the right time. Where do these CIA Mossad people where do they hire them from? And finally here, well, in a very uplifting story, well, before I tell you about uplifting, here is just her little spat with Mike Adams recently. Well, this is Laura Loomer saying the following: "So many grifters turning on President Trump. I hope he punishes them all." And then Mike said, Laura Loomer calls for vindictive punishment by President Trump. Her true nature is coming out for everyone to see. Mike, I could not agree more. Remember, dissent is the highest form of patriotism. Thomas Jefferson told us that. Yes, he did. Okay, that leads us now to CNN. This is a uplifting story for the family. Well, now tears on the horizon now as CNN, as insiders reveal stars are now on the chopping block. Yeah, Anderson, CIA Cooper, Wolf Blitzer, whoever's left in that decrepit morgue, they're not going to be there much longer. Well, Warner Brothers Discovery Shock split into two distinctive companies is a sign the jobs and hefty salaries of CNN's top talent are on the line. Media insiders are warning. In fact, we just reported on that. Anderson Cooper, I don't know if you're aware, gets $18 million a year for being the just proper CNN/CIA stooge that he is. Well, the media giant announced last week it will split it in half into two publicly traded entities, streaming in studios and global networks by mid next year. So you're going to see people like Anderson Cooper, Wolf Blitzer, Jake Tapeworm, and the whole lot go bye-bye. And I'm even going to say you're going to see the same happen at ABC with The View. The whole landscape is changing. The whole thing's changing real fast, real fast. Okay, we're going to hit a break now. Now, when we get back, our feature story we're going to get into, you don't want to miss this. We're going to talk about the secrets that were found in the hacking over there at Israel by Iran. You don't want to miss that. And we're going to try to speculate, if not more, who has the pedo files? Who has the Epstein files? What are they going to do with it? Do we know? Do we know? Also, we're going to have a look at just who exactly is Trump. I mean, I have put together some things that I used to notice about Biden that I have to beg the question, is Trump even with us at this point? Is this a real person? And how many Trumps are there? That's the Daily Double here tonight. So hold your hats. You're watching World at War. And we're just getting started. We'll be back after this quick message.
intelligence with us?
Oh, probably not, but they share a lot. We don't share all of our intelligence with them, but we share a lot. It's a close alliance.
Do they spy domestically in the United States?
Oh, they probably do, and we do as well. And friends and allies spy on each other. And I assume all of our allies spy on us.
That's okay with you?
You know what? One of the things about being a conservative is that you're not naive and utopian. You don't think humans are all... Part of the reason socialism doesn't work is the mantra from each according to his abilities to each according to his needs doesn't work. As a conservative, I assume people act in their rational self-interest.
So it's conservative to pay people to spy on you?
It's conservative to recognize that human beings act in their own self-interest, and every one of our friends spies on us. And I'm not...
Do you like it? That's my question. I'm not asking whether they have motive to do it. Of course they do. I understand that, and by the way, I'm not mad at them. But you're an American lawmaker, so I just want to know. Hold on, I want to know your attitude. Yeah. You said that your guiding principle, in fact, the only principle, the only criterion.
I said guiding, the overwhelming. I wouldn't say only.
Is it in America's interest? Is it in America's interest for Israel to spy on us, including on the president?
It is in America's interest to be closely allied with Israel because we get huge benefits for it. And you want to see the clearest...
But I just want to stop on the spying for a second. That it takes place, as you know, and including on the president of the United States and several precedents. And I just want to know if that's okay and why is it okay? Wouldn't an American lawmaker say to a client state, you're not allowed to spy on us? I'm sorry. I know why you want to. I'm not mad at you, but you're not allowed to.
Sure.
And I don't care for it. I don't want to be spied on by you. Is that... It's kind of weird not to say that, but you don't seem able to say that.
Just how bad is Ozempic, or I should say, because now the addiction, it seems to be taking process. It's being subsidized by the government. It's being included in Medicare, Medicaid. Is there Ozempic craze and fever, or do you think we're at the tail end of discovery?
Well, they say with people that have trouble losing weight, it's addictive like tattoos are to people. You know how people get one and then they want another and they want another. It's an addiction.
Well, Sean, this is why I'm worried about men. Men, if you're watching this now, this is a men's kind of deal here. And Sean, I hope to God you don't take Ozempic, and I know you don't, but you never know these days. But if you do, you got to be careful because they have something now called Ozempic penis. Someone says, I'm suffering from Ozempic penis, the latest bizarre side effect caused by the weight loss drug. Sean, pay attention just in case you have friends. Well, let me tell you about this now. Gaining inches on Ozempic isn't what dieters want to experience. That's unless the growth is occurring below the belt. An increase in penis size is something advertised as a side effect, but it seems to be the case. Sean, just when you thought just the allure of losing weight is why you want to take Ozempic, now you're going to have men who want a bigger American Johnson there. They're going to be taking the Ozempic too. I mean, just how dangerous is this for the male anatomy, Sean?
Yeah, I think with that side effect, I could hear the stock soaring as we speak. But no, I mean, you know, anything like that alters your body, even in a seemingly positive way like that, is, I mean, there's got to be some other health consequences to that. I mean, you know, taking drugs or surgery, I never wanted to go down that route. I used, you know, the natural route of diet and exercise, and I had success. So, I mean, you don't need a drug or surgery to alter your body that way.
Well, now Seth Black says, give me Ozempic. Marnie, I want to resort to you here. All right, we are back. We are back. A bit of a scratchy throat here. Welcome back, everybody, to World at War. I am your cruise director, still one and the only Dean Ryan, who is cruising with you to midnight and beyond. And, you know, we appreciate your support, everybody who has donated to Real Deal Go to keep these broadcasts going. A lot of work goes into these things, and I don't know if you're aware. But yes, all you got to do is go to givesendgo.com/Real Deal Go. Yes, you do. And also become a visionaire with Debonair, become a player from the Himalaya, become iconic, not ironic, become a night owl. All you got to do is go to, well, not that one, but right here, just go to realdealmedia.tv, a newly renovated website. We would love to have you for extra content. Yeah, in fact, I think we have a members-only show tomorrow night, following tomorrow night's broadcast. You don't want to miss that. We invite you. You have my personal invite. Okay, let's get back to business here. We're now going to get to our featured story. And these are some of the things that I have seen over the course of time. You know, it's very rare that you have someone who breaks out of character in this industry to go on a limb to say, yeah, that person is not who we think it is, or that person is using a double in the case of Hillary Clinton all those years, or even worse in the case of the man who, who had just balls on his chin. Yeah, Joe Biden is dead and has been for quite some time. And hell with the blowback for saying these things, but that's going to bring us down to our feature story. As skies over Tehran and secrets below. Well, if you're not aware, there was a huge cyber attack on Israel. They don't like to really talk about that Iran did just days ago. In fact, they made a statement of the following. Well, breaking, Iranian state television is warning of a major surprise expected tonight. One claims that the world will remember for centuries to come. Now, as we told you, the Office of War Information is now underway. They have a huge ban list of independent voices on social media that are not going along to get along with the narrative, and people who might critique Israel a little too much for their liking. Well, congratulations, you made a list. And just in the nick of time. Now, you can make the case that maybe this is why there is a missile, an attack preemptive by Israel on Iran, because somebody has the Epstein files. Somebody has everything. And I mean everything. Can we make the case that's why that happened? And if they do have it and they did release it, how would we even know when the satellites that come into this country and the internet is controlled and everything goes through the Pentagon and through the Office of War Information? Well, let's get down to it just a little further, shall we? Well, breaking, as I showed you there, yes, major surprise. Well, here it is. Iran hacked the 3 terabyte of classified data. Some of it may include Epstein-related material. Now, Israel launched surprise airstrikes days later. Could be the, quote, kill switch opportunity to stop the leaks. Now, Trump claims he has, quote, total control over the skies. Is this a psychological operation, you must ask, or digital warfare for complete domination? Epstein's blackmail ring may tie to Israeli intel, adds weight to Mossad theory. Long denied, but never disproven. Well, isn't that special? Well, here's some 5 pillars that I've came up with that how I see and what I feel is coming down the pikeway. Well, there I am in my office. Well, let's get to it now. Number 1, Iran has an Iron Dome, you may not know, and won't run out of missiles, unlike Israel. Plus, backed by China and Russia. We should also add, unlike Israel and the U.S. Now, number 2, Israel's economy is tanking in addition to the worldwide boycott and condemnation. Number 3, this war will unite Americans on all political spectrums, similar to what 9/11 did to us. Number 4, U.S. military offensive capabilities have diminished and won't be able to shield Israel. Plus, our weak economy can't afford. And that's just it, is war is health of the state. If you can't afford a war, well, you can't really conduct one. And finally, number 5, Israel won't be a country much longer, hence Bibi's departure to Greece. And what I mean by that is name changes happen all the time. We've seen it with Bombay, that's over there in India, that switched to Mumbai, or even another element of that, an entirely different government over there in Israel, as the entire cabinet and Netanyahu are going to be charged for war crimes under the Nuremberg Code. And let us not forget, Israel is the most miracle-jabbed country in the world. In the world. Roughly upwards of 90% of the citizens are miracle jabbed. Now, finally here, I noticed something on the show last night. We showed you Donald Trump, who was speaking in Air Force One, and what the parallels that I noticed were the following, that he was kind of standing in the same area that Biden was, half out, hiding a little bit. And there's some things I noticed, and I'm not saying I know everything, but I'm pretty damn close. Look at this right here. As we now continue, different color eyes. Different color eyes. Donald Trump has blue eyes, not brown, but blue. And where have we seen ears like that before from the Biden mask? And what kind of hand is that? There's no fingernail on it. It's like a baby thumb. Just very weird stuff. And even if that is not a plausible kind of thesis, the man looks very subdued to me. He's not the same person. And I can only question things because this is not something Donald Trump would want to be part of. Now, the other case, you could say 5D chess is being played in the usual rhetoric, but we must call the balls and strikes around here at World at War. But this looks like an entirely different person, and the ear is very suspect to me. And I wanted to bring that to your attention. And everybody talks about there's multiple Trumps. There's no secret there. They have doubles for safety, security reasons, and everything. But when there's now an Office of War Information that is going to be ran out of the State Department, Department of Justice, that's going to be censoring people who speak out against this, we have to raise the alarm. We have to raise the awareness, don't we? We have some people here who are speaking. Lena Star Moon says, very dark, almost black at times. Very true. Here we have Maddie Lynn saying, and I'll put this up too, where she says, deep crease, wrinkle over his eyebrows. Yeah, I'd say so. I'd say so on that. And also too, let's go back here. The one we saw earlier in the beginning of the show, a much younger Trump. If you missed it, here's 5 seconds of what we saw earlier. Pay attention to how much younger this following Trump is. And I've never seen Trump wear a canary yellow tie before in my life. So I don't know who we're dealing with here.
Making your decision on Iran, obviously there's been a change from when you were pursuing a diplomatic negotiation.
Yeah.
Now you seem very open to the idea of potentially taking U.S. action. Obviously you're not going to tell us that. Can you walk us through what contributed to that change, how you got to where you are in making your decision now?
Well, I think it started the first night. I mean, the first night was devastating, and it really knocked the one side off, as you know.
Different guy to me. Different guy, different look. You see? I don't think they're robots or any of that the people behind Biden were using, but it just seems a little weird, and I'd be remiss if I didn't bring that up. And then the bigger question, which I can't answer, and maybe you can, is who's controlling the circumference of this person? Who has Trump insulated? You know, I recall Trump 1.0 of how he was insulated and getting poisoned by General Kelly. General Kelly, they were putting thallium in his Diet Cokes. They were monitoring his cell phone, his mobile, of what websites he could go to and not go to. And constantly, they were wiping clean all messages and blocking certain people he's known for years from reaching him. This is a very dangerous time, and we have to ask these tough questions because that is the greatest form of patriotism. Not to go along to get along. And I want the best outcome too. And I know all of you do as well. Now let's get to some Real Deal International, shall we? Real Deal International. And how do we follow that, Dewey? How do we follow? Well, now this brings us all the way to the UK. And how's the United Kingdom handling this? You know, the UK is no fan of Trump. They're no fan of nationalism. And the UK won't even adhere to Brexit that was voted for overwhelmingly by the people. They can't even get a trade deal because it's turned into a ghetto from Abu Dhabi, if you ask me. Well, what is Starmer doing now? Starmer puts the United Kingdom on high alert for potential U.S. attack on Iran. Let me tell you a bit more about it here. Well, now, Prime Minister Keir Starmer, man who loves to wear ladies' wigs, well, he's put his cabinet on high alert for possible U.S. attack on Iran. His ministers now discussed working with American forces in the event of Tehran threatened UK assets in the Middle East. Now, just 24 hours after insisting Donald Trump had given no indication he was about to get involved in the matter, well, this is exactly what happened. The Prime Minister and his cabinet reviewed Britain and reviewed how Britain can be of service in the event of major escalation. Now, UK officials said the situation was, quote, grave and volatile. Grave and volatile. While Starmer's team discussed whether the president might seek to strike Iran's nuclear facilities from a joint U.S.-UK airbase, Diego Garcia, over there in the Indian Ocean. That's exactly what the supreme leader over there, or one of them, was talking about. Now, the possible use of this base of Diego Garcia over there in the Indian Ocean for U.S. airstrikes on Iran by stealth bombers, to be exact, would draw Britain closer to the conflict, meaning we would bond like war buddies bond, or not the bonding maybe Starmer is used to, where he's, well, I won't say that. But anyways, one UK official said that there was not a clear yes or no answer to whether Washington would have to seek approval from Britain to use the base to launch an attack. Yeah, so that belongs to England, if you don't know, not just the Falkland Islands. Now, Britain has so far stayed out of the Israeli-Iran war, much to Zelensky's dissatisfaction. He's saying, what about me? Where's Sean Friend? Yeah, where is Sean Friend? Sean Penn, excuse me. Well, now it could lead to the closure of its embassy in Tehran, the UK, that is, a key Western diplomatic post in the Middle East. But Starmer on Wednesday discussed with ministers and military chiefs how Britain might respond directly, indirectly, threatened if their assets are threatened in the region, and they are prepared to go to the next level. Now, isn't this interesting? Now, if you recall, we had our EU insider, just to rehash that, who said that the UK, all the elites at the top over there in 10 Downing Street in the parliament, are deathly afraid of an Islamic takeover of England, which I would say, well, a little too late, because we've identified 9 mayors that we know about in some very key strongholds, cities over there in the UK, that are being, the positions are being held by Islamics. So now they feel that they need to contribute more to the Israeli foundation of warfare. Plus, I believe he's married to an Israeli, and that's when I said, what, he's married to a woman? Get out. That's how that one goes. What say you on that affair? What say you on that affair before we get to our Real Deal Health? A lot of people who are speaking on this matter are in England. If you're watching, you are trembling with anxiety, and so are we over here in the United States. I feel you're anxious and everything that comes with it. Here we have, yeah, exactly. Lannister Moon says it's literally Indian Muslim island now. Yeah, it's just an open border. Just come on in, kick your feet up. We're gonna, interchange the bulldog, the British bulldog, for the camel. No problem. No problem. Plenty of there in the UK. Claudine Sorbello says plenty of there. Okay, there you have it. Okay, let's now get to Real Deal Health. We have some real big breakthroughs. Huge, to be exact. Well, do we or do we not? Okay, let's just get to it, shall we? All right, well, here's something very interesting as we kind of sunset tonight. Now, all this talk about Ozempic, and clearly you saw the advert earlier, that Ozempic doesn't just quote unquote help you lose weight, help you lose control of all your bowels eventually. That's now being one of the side effects that's totally being underreported. Highly addictive, mood changing, but now it's on everybody's Medicare, Medicaid, meaning the government wants to subsidize it, and I believe we're the only country that does so. Well, yes, Pennsylvania says not so fast now. Pennsylvania to break up with Ozempic immediately. Yeah, that's right. The Pennsylvanians could lose access to the weight loss drug. Also, the subsidized penis pump, as we are now learning. Low-income Pennsylvanians could lose access to weight loss drugs like Ozempic and other competitors like Wegovy under proposed Medicaid changes this year. And Bobby's no fan of Ozempic. Bobby's like Sean Gregorian and myself. We don't need Ozempic to show just how manly we are. But also, this is a detriment to society. It's a poison people are pumping into their bodies. Well, Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro, his office has said it's looking to change the statutes for weight loss drugs in the state as part of a search for saving in its 2025-26 budget plans. Now, the current price of this current medication has contributed to increasing expenditures at a rate that is unsustainable. As a spokesperson from the Department of Inhumane Services has now told us. Well, why does this matter, you might ask? Well, medications are typically prescribed to individuals with type 2 diabetes. Yeah, not usually for guys who are a little, light in the pants, as we're now learning, in order to manage blood sugar levels, but they have more recently been used to help with weight loss, as they can suppress the appetite and just store the food there, and then one day it breaks like the Hoover Dam. Now, the drugs are based on naturally occurring human hormones, GLP-1, which contains unknown substances I will not even share with you. Now, obesity affects more than 100 million adults in the United States are obese, with 22 million classified as severely obese, according to the CDC. And why would they lie to us? Why would they lie to us? And who can forget the childhood obesity, childhood diabetics? We have a problem. We have a problem. So we're going to see how that plays out. And California is all on board with all of that. So they got Ozempic Central and Ozempic Palooza, if you ask me. Finally here, before we take a few questions or two, well, now Alzheimer's could start 20 years before memory fades. And I got to say, put me on that list. I don't know how many of you out there have very hard to remember things lately. Well, let's see, before we get into it, well, what do we know so far? We have lithium falling on us from the chemtrails. Yes, we do. Mike Adams even found mercury, which is a heavy metal deterrent that's causing memory problems. We have the heavy metals in seniors' medicines. We have heavy metals in all of our foods, chemicals, everything. Plus the overload of information in this warfare, people have a hard time to remember. Well, now it's happening earlier and earlier. Even the beer, too. You're a drinker out there. Well, that's just it. Alzheimer's is now starting early. A new study has now found. Experts are sounding the alarm now. The initial symptoms of Alzheimer's might appear decades before memory loss, potentially revolutionizing the battle against, in this case, the UK's leading cause of death. Now, a groundbreaking study has now suggested that early indicators be awareness difficulties such as navigation troubles, standing too close to others, manifesting up to 20 years prior to the classic signs of memory impairment and disorientation. Well, a Seattle-based researcher has now conducted an extensive study analyzing the brains of 84 individuals diagnosed with Alzheimer's, revealing startling signs of neuron death well before any visible damage on brain scans. And can we also add one of the consequences of the miracle jabs? Can we say it's also the Alzheimer's? Well, employing advanced machine learning technology, the team tracked the notorious Alzheimer's associated proteins, discovering that even minimal levels can harm crucial neurons. Identifying the earliest neurons neurons lost, that is, could be crucial for developing therapeutic interventions to protect them and prevent further cognitive decline. Well, it's called magnesium. It's called turmeric. It's called stopping the chemtrails in the sky. It is. What are your thoughts on that before we get the H out of here? Yeah, the chemtrails are a big player in memory loss, in lethargy, in warfare, in some galactic other things that are happening that's stemming out of the Antarctica area that we can't necessarily go in tonight. In fact, here's a tidbit I should share with you. If you recall, over there in Tennessee, the legislation, the state house of Congress over there voted to stop geoengineering in Tennessee. Many of our viewers, and some of our viewers for that fact, who live in Tennessee, shared with me that, Dean, we still see the X's, the O's, and all that disbursement in the sky. What's going on here? Well, what I found out is the legislation over there in Tennessee that's causing Alzheimer's and all these ailments, it only covers ground that goes up to 2,000 feet in the sky, which tells me and tells you that DARPA which is a defense contracting firm, firm and department of the military, are going over 2,000 feet in the sky and dropping the chemtrails on us. So we raise the bar and they just go higher. So there's your answer for that one. If you live in Tennessee, well, now you have the answer. We have Mr. Watlin saying the following: miracle jab, annihilate chemtrail flu. Yeah, that's true. And I must add too, during this time of warfare and distraction, major ground and breakthrough in these Nuremberg, I want to say, posturings with the medical community is underway. I think we are now approaching that time where we're going to have to pay the piper of truth and talk about all these people that are peeling off right now. It's the big die-off. I know we feel it. We have Linda Craig that says, look up. Yes. Yeah, we see it every day. It's disgusting. Hammer Time says, we live under the dome. That's what the Simpsons told us too. Linda Craig says 17,000 feet to be exact. Now, is that 17,000 feet, Linda, that the legislation covers, or is that how high the planes are in the sky? That's my question. And thank you for that. Here's some other people here. Well, we have Liz Marchant who says aluminum in deodorant. Yeah. Make sure you don't have aluminum in your deodorants. Cancer causing and memory loss. Here's some other things here. Regarding England, we have Nigel Dyer that says the following: these men migrants are staying outside our schools and parks, taking pictures of our children here in the UK. Crazy. If you do that in Saudi Arabia, they cut your hand off. And that's just for stealing an apple. But thank you for that, Nigel. And finally, here is, finally, we have Mr. Watland that says, ironic, I have an Israeli gas mask. Okay. Let me go to use Liz Marchant. Thank you. John Davies, I'd hate to think how many we have here in Australia. Not many, I gather. Yeah, Australia has a new prime minister, and then that seems to be the case. There's a lot of chemtrails in Australia. You know, there should be a deeper dive on Australia that I should do, because those underground military bunkers and bases, and it's got to be the home of the pedo lights, if you know what I mean. So much so that Belgium and Brussels said, wait a minute, we thought that was us. But thank you for that, Liz Marchant. And that's going to bring us now to, you guessed it, final thoughts here. Final thoughts here as we end the skies over Tehran and secrets below. And many secrets we're going to hear about here. But as we conclude tonight, I wish we were concluding a almost full-blown world war that's gone kinetic. But sadly, we still have the neocons that are swarming Donald Trump and the Oval Office and our foreign policy, whether it's domestic or the creepy country from the Middle East. And I don't think any of our countries or any free person or individual can be free when we have psychotic killers at hand. And there's nothing worse than a psychotic killer, whether it's in Iran with their supreme ayatollahs who were placed in power there, if you don't recall, because the CIA conducted a coup d'etat in 1953 on the freely elected leader of Iran, who didn't get along with the United States corporations and oil companies to share the Iranian people's oil to the West the way they wanted. So the CIA overthrew a duly elected president, installed a fictitious royal monarchy family from the UK parliament area. In 1979, we saw a blowback with very, very primitive leaders who took charge. And now we're paying a price for intervention. And here we are again, trying to do another intervention. It's like we didn't learn back then. We didn't learn under George W. Bush. And now we're faced with the ultimatum of World War III, surrender, or we're going to nuke you. And sadly, I think that's coming. So we're going to continue to monitor this as the situation develops and evolves. I'll be back here tomorrow night, but I have to tell you, back in 2009, I was invited in LA to a Iranian freedom march. People who were Persian in LA, Los Angeles has a huge Persian community. They're very beautiful people, particularly the women. But yes, I'm sure there's others out there. But beautiful people, rich in culture. And I got to know them. And they asked me all those years ago to participate in such an event. And I did. And they said, can you write a song for us? And at that time, there was a beautiful girl in Iran. Her name was Nada, who was protesting just like a lot of the people were over here in the past week, not the violent ones. And she was shot cold blood, and it really broke my heart and struck a nerve. So I'm going to leave you tonight with the following 16-year-old video here of that exact song that I wrote for this wonderful girl who's no longer with us. I'll leave you on that, and I'll see everybody tomorrow night. Always remember to stay tuned and stay awake. This is for Nate.
No one's ever gonna ever stop us now.